This video is intended to describe lightblade talisman of the Transmutation platform with some noteworthy exotic variables in the matrix of this design. Joining me today in this endeavor will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, which I'll be utilizing as a visual cue reference stimulation guide. And without further ado, I'll be getting to the talisman itself. Starting off with the blade band scaffolding seen like so, as well as laterally up over here, and then connecting this point and this lateral band as well, and this band, as well as the apex band, is developed to be the lightblade scaffolding, which vaguely resembles a figure 8 for perpetual energetic recirculation of the entire continuity of this rather diverse yet very focused and simplistic construct, relatively speaking to various of its siblings in distribution. So first things first I'll be discussing will be the consistency of the blade band seen right here, starting off with hematite and smoky quartz in ignition sequence seen like so before it grounds back into the same ratio of transmutation going laterally right here and up the side right here, conjoining this lateral band right here as well as here, is very consistent of the same crystalline ignition sequence, with hematite being a very powerful iron-based grounder of all stray radial energies firmly through the root chakra into the earth stars and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing, in tandem with smoky quartz to be a very supportive subcapacitation of that emanation would be the aspect of smoke quartz, just like hematite being a fantastic grounder and composter of all excessive energy by firmly anchoring the root chakra, the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. Hence the two together have been deemed the transmutation ratio and have enjoyed very wide distribution due to the fact of its simplistic effective nature. The two combined, of course, just like mentioned individually, focus the energy of taking the entire auric field and firmly grounding all the excess energy through the root chakra. By pulling all stray radial energy through, it makes for a very powerful, successful ground point connection resonance with the earth plane for rapid reprocessing, aka transmutation of negativity into positivity by rapid etheric dialysis transfer discharge that's highly discouraging for stagnant energies to maintain in the field with that much rapid, concentrated, focused dispersion, recirculation resonance with the earth plane for reprocessing. Or as a little joke I employ for this concept as well is, it is like etheric Teflon, very, very discouraging for internal, external negative energy to maintain the field with that much rapid transmutation ground, which has many different aspects of beneficence theoretically to be discussed right now, such as, of course, of strongly, firmly grounding the excess energy of the auric field into the earth is also very conducive for manifestation aspects that would be considered to be deemed magic. And that's enough digression there. I must stay on target with the crystalline composition, hence the reason for the season. So, of course, like I mentioned, the transmutation ratio is very consistent with the hematite and smoke quartz ignition sequence, always seen through here. Very streamlined, concentrated device for a very focused goal of being a rapid grounder of energy in the earth to be very discouraging for negativity to stick to the auric field by providing a rapid transference broadcast by design, which is very consistent until it gets to the apex band right here, which starts off with the hematite, which is, once again is the iron-based mineral that is perhaps the most effective grounder of excess energy into the earth for reprocessing, pulling all stray radial energies into the earth. Then in tandem with the clear quartz seen right here, can work like a neutral subcapacitator to carry the wavelength current towards the apex, where of course the necklace shall be installed, to be a neutral ambient acceleration of the entirety of the construct, which also puts in the realm of being consciousness assisted technology due to the fact that clear quartz is very neutral in its nature, with amplification or impulses of the wielder, for example, to be charged into the construct for the entirety of the closed reactive circuitry. So that, once again, would be just the light blade scaffolding mentioned thus far. Next, I'll be discussing the blade facing, going all the way up through the construct. So before I discuss the intricacies of the rest of these crystals seen right here, I'll discuss the aspect of the primary wire of copper, brass, and silver spooled together to serve as the main vein. So before I discuss the rest of the organs of this crystalline entity, if you would, these components are all grounded into somehow, some way, terminated into this primary wire to be the main vein of the construct to generate vibrational compound interest. So every other crystal we're mentioning now is grounded into this matrice to, of course, like I just implied, generate vibrational compound interest of organs of this crystalline entity as a whole, to repeat myself for a very thorough dissertation concept. Starting off at the very apex of the core, right here would be a very special specimen of Tibetan black quartz. Tibetan black quartz actually is among a trilogy or a trinity of master healer frequencies I employ quite frequently together due to their very effective trifecta of magical augmentation capacity, which are going to be in conjunction with the star argonite and the seraphinite. But to stay on target very specifically about the Tibetan black quartz, Tibetan black quartz is a crystal that comes from Tibet, a region of the world that has virtually unrivaled, unbroken spiritual discipline lineage, grounded one spot in the Earth Meridian Matrix for millennia, at least, and we can draw upon for recorded history. And so the aspect of the Tibetan Om resonance is very advantageous for the entire full light body activation from top to bottom, which makes for a very dramatic higher expansion scaffolding of the higher chakras, such as the soul stars, crown, stellar gateway, for example. Yet, of course, what makes it truly a dynamic master healer is capacity to independently ground this energy into the earth, to expand the rooting cord at the same way, to work as a optimized torus field generator from top to bottom to expand the light body capacity. Also, in that configuration, works to dismantle any patterns of disease from bottom to top that be stored in the auric field or the nerve ganglia of the nervous system. So that truly dynamic, powerful master healer also, of course, has a nice Om attunement source resonant frequency, which has a very vast multilateral beneficence to the human auric field template. And like I mentioned, it's on par with a trinity of 3 other crystals, which I will save till I get back up to here, that provide a similar energetic stimulation, but this will be for the hood section. So I must stay on target with this large flat over here. So this right here would be the tourmalated quartz right here, which is actually clear quartz with bands of black tourmaline seen inside the structure. Like mentioned previously, quartz is a very lovely neutral ambient amplifier of energy, which is very effective for vibrational impulses or prayers or magic for the recipient, for example, based on its neutrality of amplification. But the aspect where this particular specimen truly shines is that since clear quartz is a neutral amplifier, with a natural matrix of black tourmaline seen inside of it, it also works to massively amplify black tourmaline, schwarl, which is a very commonly in vogue black ray crystal in this day and age for purifying negativity into positivity by, once again, just like the transmutation ratio, encouraging a very powerful black ray purification resonance to successfully discharge stored negativity for reprocessing transmutation, for example, which of course works very complementary with the primary design of this construct. So the aspect of the black tourmaline with the neutral amplified quartz is basically supercharging the aspect of the tourmaline seen in the structure, which also makes for another resonant node of the construct for neutral programmability amplification. Then above that right here would be a bolt of fulgurite to give a little more pep out of this guy. Would be actually the fulgurite is a product of lightning striking sand. So literally, lightning strikes sand, it vaporizes the sand hotter than the surface of the sun by 3 times. So of course that silica matrix of holding the force of lightning is now represented here, which has very powerful energy resonance consequences of being a very powerful lightning force energy to amplify and expand the entire light body from top to bottom to amplify for prayers, which I will omit more lore about it right now to keep this video more consolidated. But it is quite the mystical, magical spirit tool of antiquity, well utilized by various shaman castes to amplify their magic from times of old, to put it quite simple. And this side of the blade face right here is intentionally left very blank for the installation of a very powerful personal magical artifact of the recipient, which I will omit now. But the aspect of why this is intentionally blank is for the installation of a certain artifact once this is happily in the custody of the recipient to be installed like so, in this void space right here. Now this next section right here will be where the hood shall be installed. So the aspect of the proper installation of this jokingly referred Jedi brown leather is that of the essence and far more than aesthetic at a quick glance. So the aspect of the brown leather hood has many purposes, such as A, the insulation of the subtle crystals seen in here, which we described momentarily, which play quite the pivotal role for the intentional function of this entire miniaturized closed-loop reactive wearable talisman. And it also works as a lovely color therapy resonance appropriate support frequency for the entire construct, so that the aspect of the lovely Jedi brown will be a very earthy vibration tone, very much in line support of such a by design grounding talisman for purposes. So then the aspect too, of course, is to protect all these crystals in here as well as the wire work so that they are being well protected as they live their functional purpose as being a wearable talisman, obviously to be worn and wielded by the recipient as they serve creation. And also, it does give a nice completion-esque look to the construct once it's fully wrapped up in a nice, appropriate aesthetic fashion. But I want to, of course, reiterate, this is far more than aesthetic. It indeed is a very functional aspect from the top of being a way to also insulate the energy seen right here, because underneath the hood right here are some rather exotic high-frequency crystals in the termination sequence. So by successfully condensing the energy with the leather it also provides mitigation of stray energies from leaking, so it's more effectively channeling the energy through the primary blade band as well as the apex necklace band for the purposes of efficiency too. So without further ado, I'll discuss what will be under this hood now. Starting off with a very large prominent specimen of black tektite seen right here, which is a product of meteorite impacting sand, thereby being a tektite, which is, of course, like I mentioned, the product of a meteorite impacting sand with that much pressure and heat from the heavens entering Earth, is a very powerful black ray celestial frequency agent. And luckily, since it's a black ray heaven to earth crystal frequency, the foundational raising from the ground up is of the essence with this guy. To tangibly raise vibrations from a very foundational setting is the big prerogative of its installation. So to raise vibrations with celestial energy from the ground up is its own very even, balanced, foundational, tangible, raising the entire auric field's sheath, if you would, to a highest configuration possible in alignment with one's dharmic template, which I will omit right now not to get too far out and off topic, to keep things really relevant for cataloging the crystal ignition sequence. Not as easy as it appears, obviously. And speaking of black ray crystals, down over here on the side, well concealed underneath the auxiliary wires at this point, will be another black ray crystal quite in vogue in this timeline named shungite. Shungite is quite famous for being a very successful mitigator of 5G unnatural harmful wavelengths we can test with as the modern humans dealing with cell phone towers, radiation, Wi-Fi, you name it. We are subjected to unnatural forces of emanations that our ancestors have not been. So that's why it goes back to my previous comment, is that this stone is quite in vogue for being a very fantastic black ray mitigator of these negativities saturating the system, based on a carbon-based black ray purification, just like a very common theme for this entire construct for that matter, would be the, of course, strong black ray concentration to serve as a rapid bypass transmutation to discourage negativity from saturating in the field, manifesting as a dis-ease. That's, of course, me repeating that 3 times, maybe 3 times more before I'm done with this little dissertation, but that's the concentrated goal focus with auxiliary augmentations. Pardon my digression, back on topic. So that'd be, of course, like I mentioned, the black ray crystals of notoriety would be the black tektite for high vibrational cosmic raising of energy from the feet up scaffolding, thank goodness. Very, very useful utilitarian raising vibrations for an entire construct, that is. Then the shungite. Now I'll be mentioning the 2 of the trinity that I've omitted so far. So circling back to Tibetan black quartz, being a very powerful full light body healer from top to bottom. This would also be the incorporation of star argonite, barely seen here because it's very well concealed. Star argonite is a calcium-based, once again, full light body activator that stimulates the entire auric field from top to bottom, and based on a calcium spectrum, works very diligently but very gently to clear any patterns of dis-ease in all its varieties. In tandem with seraphinite, a green ray crystal named after the seraphim archangels, which, just like implied with the Trinity so far, stimulates the entire chakra column from top to bottom and targets very specifically any patterns that are of the false self matrix, manifesting as, once again, you guessed it, a dis-ease. So hence, the Trinity I mentioned before would be that of star argonite, seraphinite, and Tibetan black quartz as a very triumphant trifecta. So that's, of course, why I mentioned this in this little guide too, is that makes for a very powerful full light body healing emanation frequency, but most importantly, this exotic variation has been, of course, installed upon the tried and true transmutation ratio to rapidly disperse and ground this energy into Earth to, of course, encourage also making the magic real. The beneficence of this construct has been very prolific in its field testing for that purpose, so that's enough digressions once again. And so that would be most of the crystals mentioned to what I oftentimes save for last intentionally. So right here, this wooden core comes from my backyard here in Mount Shasta from a very good friend of mine off in the distance who's an oak tree, which of course, oak is a very legendary wood range in its own right, which I will omit to consolidate time for this video, not make it any longer than it has to be. But oak, pragmatically speaking, is famously a very dense, hard wood, which means its atomical structure is that of strength and a very strong weave. Hence, it's a hard wood. And so that makes for a very fantastic carbon-based platform for now, carbon-based resonant frequency transference to the carbon-based avatars of the human being, in tandem to work as a segue to be able a very successful transference of the silica radial energy of the core of this device. So of course the wood is very much an intrinsic component towards, once again, in my opinion, making the magic real. And affixed to the core, hewn to the right size, would be also two specimens of selenite seen right here. So selenite is a very fantastic higher frequency stimulant of 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra back to one's Godhead, which successfully works as a very powerful way to clear debris between one's conscious self and one's higher self guidance, which in its own right, that's its own reward of noteworthy documentation for this dissertation, I would say. But the aspect of what it truly shines too, with that high frequency contact induction, it also works for a very powerful divine transmutation from the top to burn off stagnant energies that be impeding one's healthy flow of, quite simply, one's divine connected factory blueprints before malware implementations and etc., for analogy's sake, occur to manifest as a dis-ease, which I will just gloss over right now and keep going. I have to keep the cataloging in the prerogative right here of the crystals. So the selenite also is very quite critical in these designs for exactly this purpose. So nearly in this roughly 18.5-minute rant on this construct by itself, it plays a very critical role with all the crystals mentioned previously. So as it's of course grounded into this entire frequency reactive device, it also works with the entire collective of the crystals to purify all of these crystals in a sequence. It also works to amplify or intensify this entire closed loop sequence, but perhaps most importantly, it also brings equilibrium and harmonization of the entire frequency pitch for maximum efficient utilitarian utilization. Hence, that's one of the most important parts. So let me gloss over that triumphant trifecta once again of the selenites in this purpose. By itself, of course, like mentioned, this is pretty important to reiterate, I feel suddenly, is that it works for a very powerful higher guidance, higher self debris clearing field, particularly in tandem with the very heavy concentration grounding device this is, makes for a very nice two-way bridge, if you would. But the aspect of taking this entire exotic range transmutation platform and harmonizing, purifying, and amplifying the entirety of the construct is truly what makes it very noteworthy and quite of the essence for a functional lightblade talisman or light tech derivative of any kind for that matter. Okay. Almost done. So affixed to the selenite on both sides is that of black kyanite for a very distinct purpose. So kyanites, for that matter, in the mineral kingdom, are the most rapid transfers of energy in the mineral kingdom to very much encourage magic becoming real, and quite essential in this construct as well. So for this next segment, I'll be moving my pen whimsically fast to do my best to illustrate its rapid effective energy transference ratio. So the aspect of the black kyanite also takes the entirety of the frequency pitch and rapidly focuses the transference of the energy through the black ray root chakra earth stars as absolute quick as possible, which can be considered almost like a surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch inbound interacting with the field is rapidly dispersed so quickly that it makes it virtually impossible with negativity to stay in the field and resonate and saturate and cause a malady, quite simply. Hence, the kyanites are quite essential for rapid rerouting buffering. Also, with that much rapid transmutation capacity to rapidly ground into the earth at a very high yield ratio, it's also extremely discouraging for negativity to make a hook and stick to the field in that capacity as well, to put it quite simply. So that's where the black kyanites have many purposes that I feel like I never can do almost justice in these brief little dissertation videos, but at least it's better than nothing. And so that aspect of the black kyanite also really concentrates the focus of the energy grounding through the root. Like I said, also taking the entire collective crystal pitch and give it a safe, constant focus of the excess energy to encourage the rapid grounding, which has many benefits of, once again, the primary goal of being a successful transmutation agent platform to essentially develop a device that's wearable that works like an etheric Teflon energy shield, and to, of course, further make the manifestations real of one's highest purpose into reality is one of always the background prerogatives. Okay, well, I think that's enough on this guy for now for one little dissertation. 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.